Hello, welcome to another pre-show, all you patrons. Gather round, gather round.
Yes, indeedio. And look, they're getting more and more Halloweenish. That
How's
one
that?
guy's look, the one guy he's dressed like what's his face? Skellington in A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Jack? Jack Skellington?
Yeah, Jack Skellington. I think it's a little early for the costumes.
What are you dressing up as for Halloween, Charles?
Oh, the same as I did last year. President Kim of North Korea.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I put on my little North Korean. I have a North Korean lapel pin, and I have this death's head bow tie.
Are you going to get a haircut and dye your hair?
I won't dye it, but I'll push it back without any part or anything like that, and I'll smile a lot.
Okay.
He's always smiling, generally before he writes a death sentence.
I did not know that.
He's a jolly guy.
You think do you think it's going to be a big Halloween this year, or do you think people are going to be do you think trick or treating will be discouraged by the powers that be?
I know that it'll be discouraged in the city of Los Angeles, because and maybe the county. Um, it's hard to say. I mean, in Sweden they've just dumped all remaining restrictions.
Yeah.
And they don't have any in Denmark and everything in Hungary, uh, and they don't seem to be dying by the droves. And yet, at the same time, the city of LA has just tightened the screws.
Yeah.
It's one can't help but feel that nobody really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that that's a bad thing. Have we ever seen that knowing what you're doing has been such a great help? Huh?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that one, could you? Got you there.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in case there's a lot of trick or treaters, I had us buy a lot of bags of candy. So I guess if it just turns out to be a lot of no shows for Halloween, we'll have to eat it all. So
Oh, I see.
yeah,
I see. Oh, by the way, Lydia says thanks for the flowers.
my pleasure, Lydia. Absolutely.
Well, you forgot her name last week, and she was a little put out. But
I know how to take care of people, Charles.
yeah, well, remember she is the voice of the secretarial polls. So if you don't want, shall we say, minor punctuation and spelling errors in your correspondence, you got to keep them ladies happy.
I know. Trust
One
me, I know.
comma in the wrong place, and your whole letter can, shall we say, mean something very different.
That's true.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Franchini. I don't know how that could have got out like that. I'm sure it won't happen again. You remember my name, don't you now?
All right.
All I'm saying, keep the secretarial pool happy. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, that's a good, I mean, what did I say a long time ago? I like hustle, right? So everybody find their little niche, if you will, and the little core competencies, and that's how things get done at Tumblr House.
I know it's a very complicated system of mutual threats.
Exactly. Um,
A Mexican standoff, as you might say. Incidentally, though, she wanted you to know that Karen is very grateful for the chafing dish you sent for her wedding present. She's happy about that, and
good.
also that you're giving Scott her new husband a job. She appreciates that too.
My pleasure.
Well, he hopes he'll be able to live down to his incompetence or whatever it was that he said.
Well, he's connected, so
Not
it's a
connected
favor
enough.
for. It's a favor. It's a
Yeah,
favor.
well, I don't know how connected he is. You would put him in gardening, but I guess a job's a job these days.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, let's get started with a question from new top floor executive Thomas.
Speaking of inside jobs, all right, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas. He says, "Hello, gentlemen. I have two questions for Charles. The first is regarding the Coptic Church. Why is the Coptic Church in schism with both the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church?"
That's a very good question. And the answer lies, like so many other things, in the mists of antiquity. In the 400s, there was a heresy called Nestorianism. Well, the Nestorians taught that after their founder Nestorius, they taught that there is only one nature. Sorry, that there are two persons in Christ, divine and human, and for that reason, Mary was the mother of Christ, but couldn't be called the mother of God. So this was the heresy of Nestorianism. Well, as often happens, as part of the reaction to it, there was born another heresy called Monophysitism, which taught that there is only one person and one nature in God. Christ was only divine. I mean, only one nature in Christ, rather. He was purely divine. The Orthodox teaching, of course, that there's one person but two natures. Um, and this, of course, had all sorts of other ramifications. But the result was that out of Nestorius's original issue, you ended up getting two instead of one. So that's how that worked.
Okay. Second question is about Nestorian Christianity. Could Charles please give an interview of how and why Nestorianism became separated? Oh, excuse me.
Well, yeah, I didn't quite finish. Although the two, since the second question is about Nestorianism, these two are very closely connected. So I'll tell the dual story. So back in the 400s, the Bishop of Constantinople, Nestorius, taught what I've said. There are two persons in God, two persons in Christ, human and divine. And that as a result, Mary was not the mother of God, only the mother of Christ. Well, his people threw him out of his cathedral, and the Council of Ephesus was held to decide on the matter. The Council of Ephesus condemned him for heresy. Now, at the same time, the church had spread into Persia, and there were a lot of Persian Christians at that point who were being terribly persecuted because the king of Persia feared the Christians as potential allies of Rome, who were their arch enemies. Rome and Persia were constantly fighting. Well, Nestorius and his people fled to Persia, and the Persian king got the bright idea of turning over the entire governance of the church to the Nestorians. Because you see, the problem they had was that Christianity kept expanding and expanding in Persia. But their problem, as I say, was not the religion so much as it was the political tie to Rome. By giving control of the church in Persia to the Nestorians, the king was doing two things. One, ensuring that Persian Christianity would be inimical to Rome, and also ensuring that it would, look up to him as its head rather than the emperor in Rome. So that's how Nestorianism became dominant in Persia. In fact, it became coterminous with Christianity in Persia. After the Muslims invaded and took over Persia,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was that you used? Codominuous?
coterminous, yes.
What does that mean?
It means they have the same boundaries,
Oh, okay.
the same termini. So the what should happen, but that well, firstly, the Nestorians, shall we say, learned early on to coexist with non-Christian rulers in a way that the bulk of the church had not had to do. So by the time the Muslims came, they were able to deal with them, and they spread throughout Central Europe and all the way to China. Central Asia, my mind is going. They spread throughout Central Asia along the old Silk Route into Afghanistan, Turkestan, and all the way to China. And the Christian communities in India that had been founded by St. Thomas became Nestorian. They would remain that way until the Portuguese came to the area. Now, the opposite heresy, if you like, to Nestorianism was, as I say, Monophysitism, which taught that there's only one person in Christ, but also only one nature. The Orthodox teaching is that there are two, and at the Council of Chalcedon, the Monophysitism was condemned. Now, there was a national issue going on between the emperors of Constantinople and, and their neighbors in Armenia. Long and the short of it was that for various reasons, and it's debated now as to whether or not the refusal to accept the Council of Chalcedon was political or religious. But at any rate, a lot of the Egyptian, Syrian, and Armenian bishops did not accept the Council of Chalcedon. And it is from those who refused to accept it that we have the Copts, the Syriac Orthodox Church, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which stems from the Copts in Egypt, and the Armenian Gregorian Church. Now, that having been said, interesting thing happened with the Nestorians. The Mongol invasions of the 1200s basically destroyed the Nestorian Church outside the mountains of Persia and Iraq and the far south of India. The Portuguese, as I say, came to India in the 1500s, and they brought the Indian Christians there in a union with Rome. But then there was kind of a fight, and a big chunk of them broke away from the church again. But by this time, the Nestorian patriarchs were sort of isolated from all on the mountains of Iraq and Turkey. So they appealed to the opposite bunch, to the Syriac Orthodox, who were Monophysite in the beginning. So you might say they linked up with the opposite heresy. But this is where it gets a little bit screwy, because both the Assyrians, as we call the Nestorian Church now, and the Armenians, Copts, Malankaran, Armenian, etc., they all claim that they are neither Nestorian or Monophysite. Now, they all have valid orders. The Assyrian Church, the Church of the East, the Armenian Church, the Coptic Church, the Syriac Church, the Ethiopian Church, the Malankaran Orthodox Church. They all have valid orders, and from time to time, elements of them have come back into union with Rome. So, you have Ethiopian Catholics, you have Coptic Catholics, Armenian Catholics, Syriac Catholics, Malankaran and Syro-Malabar Catholic Indians, and Chaldean Catholics, so the equivalent of the Assyrians. So you have no less than 5 different hierarchs who claim the title of Patriarch of Antioch. And they are the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch, the Catholic Melkite Patriarch of Antioch, the Syriac Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch, the Syriac Catholic Patriarch of Antioch, and lastly, but very definitely not leastly, the Maronite Patriarch of Antioch. The Maronites being the only Eastern Rite who do not have a non-Catholic equivalent.
Okay.
Confusing enough for you?
I think that's enough confusion for now to protect the truth.
Confusion is the guardian of truth. We all know this.
Yes. Okay. Casey says, "Greetings. We listened to a dramatic reading of Chesterton's Lepanto today in honor of the Feast of the Holy Rosary, and we thought to ourselves, this would have been better if it was recited by Charles Coulombe. And then we thought, what if he did seasonal and liturgical recitations of poetry or prose as an extra perk for patrons?" Ooh.
Well, since you put it that way, 'twas the night before Christmas. No, not that one. Lepanto by G.K. Chesterton. White fonts falling in the courts of the sun, and the Soldan of Byzantium is smiling as they run. There is laughter like the fountains in that face of all men feared. It stirs the forest darkness, the darkness of his beard. It curls the blood-red crescent, the crescent of his lips, for the inmost sea of all the earth is shaken with his ships. They have dared the white republics up the capes of Italy. They have dashed the Adriatic round the Lion of the Sea. And the Pope has cast his arms abroad for agony and loss, and called the kings of Christendom for swords about the cross. The cold Queen of England is looking in the glass. The shadow of the Valois is yawning at the mass. From evening isles fantastical rings faint the Spanish gun, and the Lord upon the golden horn is laughing in the sun. Dim drums throbbing in the hills half heard, where only on a nameless throne a crownless prince has stirred. Where, risen from a doubtful seat and half a tainted stall, the last knight of Europe takes weapons from the wall. The last and lingering troubadour to whom the bird has sung, that once went singing southward when all the world was young. In that enormous silence, tiny and unafraid, comes along a winding road the noise of the crusade. Strong gongs groaning as the guns boom far, Don John of Austria is going to the war. Stiff flags straining in the night blasts cold, in the gloom black purple, in the glint old gold. Torchlight crimson on the copper kettle drums, then the tuckets and the trumpets, then the cannon, and he comes. Don John laughing and the brave beard curled, spurring of his stirrups like the thrones of all the world, holding his head up for a flag of all the free. Love light of Spain, hurrah! Death light of Africa, Don John of Austria is riding to the sea. Mahound is in his paradise above the evening star. Don John of Austria is going to the war. He moves a mighty turban on the timeless Houri's knees, his turban that is woven of the sunset and the seas. He shakes the peacock gardens as he rises from his ease, and he strides among the treetops and is taller than the trees. And his voice through all the garden is a thunder sent to bring black Azrael and Ariel and Ammon on the wing. Giants in the Genii, multiplex of wing and eye, whose strong obedience broke the sky when Solomon was king. They rush in red and purple from the red clouds of the morn, from temples where the yellow gods shut up their eyes in scorn. They rise in green robes roaring from the green hells of the sea, where fallen skies and evil hues and eyeless creatures be. On them the sea valves cluster and the gray sea forests curl, splashed with the splendid sickness, the sickness of the pearl. They swell in sapphire smoke out of the blue cracks of the ground. They gather and they wonder and give worship to Mahound. And he saith, break up the mountains where the hermit folk can hide, and sift the red and silver sands, lest bone of saint abide, and chase the Giaours flying night and day, not giving rest. For that which was our trouble comes again out of the west. We have set the seal of Solomon on all things under sun, of knowledge and of sorrow and endurance of things done. But a noise is in the mountains, and I know the voice that shook our palaces 400 years ago. It is he that saith not Kismet, it is he that knows not fate. It is Richard, it is Raymond, it is Godfrey in the gate. It is he whose loss is laughter when he counts the wager worth. Put down your feet upon him, that our peace be on the earth. For he heard drums groaning, and he heard guns jar. Don John of Austria is going to the war. Sudden and still, hurrah! Bolt from Iberia. Don John of Austria is gone by Alcalar. St. Michael's on his mountain in the sea roads of the north. Don John of Austria is girt and going forth. Where the grey seas glitter and the sharp tides shift, and the sea folk labour, and the red sails lift, he shakes his lance of iron, and he claps his wings of stone. The noise has gone through Normandy. The noise has gone alone. The north is full of tangled things, and texts and aching eyes, and dead is all the innocence of anger and surprise. And Christian killeth Christian in a narrow dusty room, and Christian dreadeth Christ that hath a newer face of doom. And Christian hateth Mary that God kissed in Galilee. But Don John of Austria is riding to the sea. Don John calling to the blast and the eclipse, crying with the trumpet of his lips, trumpet that saith, Ha! Domino Gloria! Don John of Austria is shouting to the ships. King Philip's in his closet with the fleece about his neck. Don John of Austria is armed upon the deck. The walls are hung with velvet that is black and soft as sin, and little dwarfs creep out of it, and little dwarfs creep in. He holds a crystal phial that has colors like the moon. He touches, and it tingles, and he trembles very soon. And his face is as a fungus of a leprous white and gray, like plants in the high houses that are shuttered from the day. And death is in the phial, and the end of noble work. But Don John of Austria has fired upon the Turk. Don John's hunting and his hounds obeyed. Booms away past Italy the rumor of his raid. Gun upon gun, ha ha, gun upon gun, hurrah! Don John of Austria has loosed the cannonade. The Pope was in his chapel before day or battle broke. Don John of Austria is hidden in the smoke. The hidden room in man's house where God sits all the year. The secret window whence the world looks small and very dear. He sees as in a mirror on the monstrous twilight sea the crescent of his cruel ships whose name is mystery. They fling great shadows forwards, making cross and castle dark. They veil the plumed lions on the galleys of St. Mark. And above the ships are palaces of brown, black-bearded chiefs, and below the ships are prisons, where with multitudinous griefs, Christian captives, sick and sunless, all a laboring race repines, like a race in sunken cities, like a nation in the mines. They are lost like slaves that sweat, and in the skies of morning hung the stairways of the tallest gods when tyranny was young. They are countless, voiceless, hopeless, as those fallen or fleeing on before the high king's horses in the granite of Babylon. And many a one grows witless in his quiet room in hell, where a yellow face looks inward through the lattice of his cell. And he finds his God forgotten, and he seeks no more a sign. But Don John of Austria has burst the battle line, Don John pounding from the slaughter-painted poop, purpling all the ocean like a bloody pirate's sloop, scarlet running over on the silvers and the golds, breaking of the hatches up and bursting of the holds, thronging of the thousands up that labor under sea, white for bliss and blind for sun and stunned for liberty. Vivat Hispania, Domino Gloria! Don John of Austria has set his peoples free. Cervantes on his galley sets the sword back in the sheath. Don John of Austria rides homeward with a reef. And he sees across a weary land a straggling road in Spain, up which a lean and foolish knight forever rides in vain. And he smiles, but not his sultan's smile, and settles back the blade. But Don John of Austria rides home from the crusade.
Very nice, Charles. Hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah, it sure is.
Hmm. Okay.
It sure is. It's a poem for the ages. You know, if there are very, very few poems you read that really, really grab you, and that you can never forget. And certainly, Chesterton did the number, and that in my to my way of thinking, Lepanto is the best short long poem you'll ever find.
Hmm. All right. A question from Patrick, who says, "Greetings to the Prince of Publishing and the Lord of Los Angeles. Be assured of my prayers during the great time of liturgical excitement that is coming upon us. I asked Mr. Coulombe for book recommendations on the history of the Crusades. Hopefully, some exist that cover the good, bad, and ugly aspects of them. On a related note, would Mr. Coulombe have any recommendations on reading material regarding St. Bernard and other saints whose stories are closely bound up with Crusades?"
Well, well, well. Yeah, there was a book that came out in 2014 that
It's
that
not
was the
God's
name of it?
Battalions. It's not God's Battalions, is it?
No, 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 no. It's just come out. It's a German name. Um, okay, it begins with W. The Glory of the Crusades by Steve Weidenkopf. Weidenkopf.
Okay.
The Glory of the. I'd recommend that very, very highly. Uh, I wonder if Weidenkopf written anything else. That one was really, really a masterpiece. So, what was the second question?
His second question was Saint Bernard.
Yeah, well, I would recommend a book called The Monks of War by Desmond Seward. It came out in 1972, and it's a really good look at the origins of the military orders of knights, and so that will tell you quite a bit about about the saints connected to the Crusades.
Okay. Um. Very good, Charles. Okay. Next question is from Cliff. What is the current relationship between the Masons and the Knights of Columbus? I know about the past, but currently it seems awfully cozy.
Well, if they're in Quebec, only if they've been vaccinated, because the state council, I know it's Canada, it should be the provincial council, but they call them state councils, even in Canada. It doesn't make sense. Why should it? The state council of the Knights of Columbus in Quebec have ordered all of its members to get vaccinated, or they cannot attend any any functions. And if they refuse to get vaccinated after X number of days, they will be expelled from the order.
Hmm.
So you know what? I don't care if the Masons are close.
All right. Let's see.
I you know what I cannot abide uh, is when a voluntary organization becomes dictatorial. You know,
Yeah. Well, I
especially at a time. What's that?
no. I would just say, okay, bye. No thanks.
Yeah, I mean, and this is at the same time they're whining about they need to get new members.
Yeah.
Yeah, you keep on with this.
Yeah.
I oh, and by the way, on a related note, related only because it has to do with the location of the shrine of our august founder. The bishop of the Archbishop or the Bishop of Hartford, Connecticut, is the Archbishop. Anyway, the Dominicans, after 135 years, are being put out of the Church of St. Mary in New Haven. If the Knights really want to get excited about something and throw their weight around, maybe that's something they should look. Oh no, they won't do that. I'm sorry, I asked the wrong question. One of the things you see today, and not just in private organizations or in government or in the church, but everywhere, it's not just shucking and jiving, because that leadership only shuck and jive when they have no power over you. But if they do, they smack you. And what is that? What is that combination of cowardice and cruelty? It's bullying. That's the mark of the bully. He steps on anyone he can, and he licks the feet of anyone tougher than he is. And it is the hallmark today of those in power over us. Sheer bullying. If they can smack you around, they'll kick you in the head, and if they can't, they'll shuck and jive. Incidentally, it was pointed out by one of our correspondents. The Holy Father has a right to be the Django Reinhardt of shuck and jive.
I saw. Is that the one I showed you?
Yeah, I like that. What are the initials, boss man, of shuck and jive?
The initials of shuck and jive are SJ.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! That's what I'm talking about. See, and this makes a lot of sense because casuistry, Jesuitry, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. They've been doing, it could be that with the Jesuits, shucking and jiving predates even the existence of the Black American community, slave or free.
Well,
in fact, what if we've got this all wrong? What if the blacks first took the words shucking and jiving from what they saw of the Jesuits?
Were the Jesuits always already polluted in a sense by then? I didn't think they were.
John Carroll. Perhaps they were in Maryland. John Carroll was the head of the Jesuits in Maryland before they were dissolved. Okay. And you know my deep feelings for John Carroll.
Is that the one who? That was
went
the
with
first.
Ben Franklin to Quebec.
Okay, yeah, he never talked about religion, and that's why he got appointed to the most important position.
And it's also why he had to go to England to get consecrated a bishop, because he was excommunicate in the Diocese of Quebec.
That's nice. Okay, moving on.
That's the third great thing about the Quebecois you heard today. Aren't you glad you're French Canadian in sort of a sense, in a way, kind of?
All right. Question from Nicholas. This is my show, Charles. I'm seizing control.
Oh, all right. I forgot.
Yeah. All right. Now, Nicholas says, "Hello, gentlemen. I was discussing the matter of congressional term limits with a select few of my classmates, and I noticed that
a select committee of his classmates."
From either side of the political spectrum, there's considerable support for the case of term limits as a solution to issues found within modern Congress. I do not see term limits as really any solution to major problems with Congress. The argument that the younger generation, once given the opportunity to govern, will bring necessary changes doesn't convince me at all. I easily point at new members such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as evidence that term limits are not a solution. I also barely, if ever, consider one proposed solution to these sorts of major political issues to be sufficient. If we really want change in how our Congress operates, then I'd imagine greater cultural changes would need to take place. I would say there is a reason why the modern Congress is so vastly different from the Congress of the early 1800s. We are practically talking about two different nations and peoples. Without writing too much on the issue based on my own opinion, I was wondering what Charles thought on the matter. If he supports term limits, if he's of a similar opinion to me, if he'd like to word it better than I have, or if he completely disagrees. Really wondering if I'm wrong, since even people who are politically very close to me are in favor of term limits.
Well, term limits seem like a good idea on the face of it. But we did it in California, and it hasn't improved anything. All it's made, we still get evil people. It's just we get evil people who have no experience in anything. I'm afraid you're right. The problem is not so much who's being elected, but who's doing the electing. AOC, as they call her, the stupid broad. She, I loved her at the Met Gala with the tax the rich dress. Let's start with her, moron. Anyway, uh, no, I mean garbage in, garbage out. Um, while you've always got the rulers and the ruled, they're in a weird symbiotic relationship. And the truth of the matter is, a lot more of us are like them than we care to admit. Especially now when the ethnicity of the ruling class, as it was, is pretty much gone. And the managers of the machine are recruited truly from every quote unquote faith. I say quote unquote because they don't tend to retain it too long, as President Biden could show you. Every quote unquote faith and ethnicity that the country can put out. But they all go through the same elite institutions, so called, and they all come out garbage. Um, I mean that in a nice way, of course. The You had a different country, and it produced different people. Uh, there are reasons we've gone the way we've gone, of course, but I think the term limits by themselves will just, as I say, you get the same kind of scum. It's just it'll be scum without either cunning or experience. Stupid scum, dumb scum.
I like professional scum.
Yeah, well, that's what we had in my day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Those were the
who
days,
would
am I
you?
right?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, listen, who would you prefer, Pat Brown or Jerry Brown?
Pat Brown every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
You bet. If I mean, a terrible father produced an evil son, and you know how you could tell the son was evil? One, he was a Jesuit, and two, he came back from the dead and was, had a whole other set of runs as governor. He was bad in the 70s, and when he came back, it was like, my gosh, could the people of California be that stupid? Oh, yeah, we can be that stupid. But if you think that's stupid, wait until we put Newsom back.
Reinventing community.
2/3 of California voted to bring the moron back.
Yeah, my wife was in disbelief that we could be that stupid.
I'm not. When you wish inside a bar, makes no difference what you are. No, what can I mean, I hate to say it, but they've got what they deserve. These are the scumbags that attacked St. Junipero Serra, the filth in Sacramento. I mean, this human sewage that run the state of California had their little mouthy lips yapping about St. Junipero Serra. These creatures to whom no corruption is unloved. these less than these foul bags of garbage, and they have the audacity to attack a man who, well, what can I say? They didn't deserve to see him. When they're frying in hell, snap, crackle, pop, this will come back for each of them. Each of the scum that voted for that thing. And the worthless creature in chief that signed it.
All right, one more question for the pre-show.
Yeah.
I like that your blood's up, Charles. That's
well,
good,
thinking of Californian politics, I mean, it's like I don't know. It's like going to the Marquis de Sade for moral advice, or asking some prostitute how to practice virtue. What would you say about a bunch of 70-year-old prostitutes coming out of retirement? A little tasteless, maybe? That's the Assembly of California and the Senate and the governor. A huge, overaged bordello, ready for all buyers. The only thing worse than that would be actual patrons. Wow! Quarter rates. I can't miss out on that deal. 2/3 of the state of California. Some people just can't refuse a bargain, I guess.
All right, stop laughing at my state. Stop laughing at my state.
New in town? Well, you sure aren't, Grandma.
All right.
You've been around the block a few million times. Oh, gosh. I don't think I'll ever be able to think of the Capitol building in Sacramento quite the same way again. Flashing red light, green dollar signs. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make our lords and masters look ridiculous. They do such a good job by themselves. All right. Control. It's all right. I can cope. I can deal. Every day in every way, California is getting better and better.
All right. Next. Do
you want to repeat that with me?
I will leave. I will walk out of here, Charles.
What are you talking about? You're not going to repeat my affirmation for the state with me?
I'm not going to do it, Charles.
Why not?
Because it's a waste of time. Now
A waste of time. Don't you want your state to improve? Just a daily affirmation for the state. You can't tell me that wouldn't make everything better. Come on. Every day in every way.
No, I'm not saying that. I won't say that. I won't say that.
Because the state is good enough. It's smart enough. And doggone it, people like it. All right, calm down, Charles. You can do this. All right, what is the last question? You know you want to say it.
No, I don't want to say it, actually. All right. All right. Our last question for the pre-show is from Giovanni. He says, "Can Charles tell us the history of the alleged chronovisor, a device claimed by Father Francois Brune to view the past in events such as our Lord's life on Earth?"
Okay, Giovanni, I got to tell you, I I had never I had never heard of this before. But you had me so fascinated. I had to look it up. Uh, I had never heard of it. Uh, it reads like something out of an Inquirer article, frankly. But apparently, this priest, Father Brun, who's written about various things, was in touch with this Italian priest. They claim to have invented a machine whereby you could see different scenes of the past, uh, which reminds me of an old science fiction short story I read a long time ago. But um, anyway, supposedly it was taken control of by the Vatican and is now either being used by the Pope or the various lizard people who rule the world or somebody to see the past. Uh, I don't know. I what can I say? Why not? It should be true. I don't know if it is true. I don't even know if it could be true, but it should be. And you know what? If you think about it hard enough and long enough, maybe it'll become true. I mean, isn't that the motivation behind affirmations?
Yes, it is. All right. So, that'll do it for this episode.
Somebody's not falling
of the
for the bait.
pre-show.
Yes, but let me ask you one question. Do you think mindlessly repeating affirmations is a useless thing to do?
Yes. All right.
All right. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call in the trade a straight answer. You heard it here. You heard it now from the boss of Tumbler House, who I can tell you, lest you think he's singling out my affirmation for a better California for abuse and neglect, never once has he done an affirmation for Tumbler House either. So it's not like he's discriminating. He doesn't sit up there on the top floor going, Tumbler House, every day in every way, we're getting better and better. He has never said that, and he never will, because he thinks affirmations are bunk.
Okay. Stop telling people what I think, okay? I think I can speak for myself, Charles.
All right, you just said you thought they were bunk, and you'd already said it, and I was simply, well, if you'll pardon the expression, affirming you. You were happy when I got my blood up.
Pope Francis. Cardinal Supich.
Speaking of affirmations,
Cardinal Tobin.
They all need affirmations. Every day in every way, Pope Francis is getting better and better.
Cardinal Parolin.
Yeah, he's a tough nut, but every day in every way, Cardinal Parolin is getting better and better.
Okay.
Because he's smart enough, he's good enough, and doggone it, he's got the cash to blow.
All right, that's enough of the pre-show, everyone. We're out of here. Stay tuned.
Well, only for a few minutes. You stick around. We're leaving to refresh ourselves, but you stick around, relax. The lady's got the cocktails for you. She'll be by in just a couple seconds. You can drink while we're gone. Ciao, ciao.